A bit of a heads up about today's episode. You're going to hear me talk a lot about things I've done and built and achieved. You can call it bragging, you can call it confidence, you can call it whatever you like. I've learned, and it's taken me a long time to learn, that you should own your wins. It's not because it's about ego, but sometimes your story is exactly what someone else needs to hear. So for International Women's Day, I want to share mine. Hey, it's Ragnar, and welcome back to I Had Plans, the podcast where I talk about plans that worked out, how they worked out, and plans that didn't work out, and sometimes reflect on that. I talk about freelance life, parenting, juggling a billion things, the wins, the losers, and all the chaos in between. So if you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe and share. Let's go. International Women's Day usually celebrates big achievements, major milestones, women who broke barriers, women who built companies, who changed industries, and then changed the world. And those stories really matter. They're sometimes hard to relate to, though, because we don't always hear about how those stories start out. They, most of the times, don't start out with a perfect plan. They might start with curiosity. They might start with long nights learning and with trying things out that may or may not work. And they start with saying yes to opportunities before you know where they might lead to. And that's how it was for me. And that's how it is for many everyday women, no matter the end result, how big or how small it is. So I've always had plans for a long time, big ones, small ones. Sometimes I haven't had plans, but I had this direction that I knew I needed to follow, which of course is tech. And there was never a step-by-step guide for the kind of work I wanted to build. I knew it was difficult. I wanted flexibility. I wanted remote work. And I knew that a lot of people have difficulty achieving that. I wanted to work in tech, but I also wanted to stay in the education industry, which is my background. So there was no clear plan or path in my mind 18 plus years ago when I started this. And I focused on learning. I focused on understanding how things work. It's this innate curiosity I have as well. I want to know how things work. I want to know about tools and platforms and systems and what they do and what the possibilities are, how they can work together. So I didn't just want to know how to use things. I wanted to really understand them, because I believe something very simple. Knowledge is never wasted. I hear a lot of people tell me, but how does this relate to your job if you're learning this new tool? Knowledge is never wasted. You might not know where it will lead, but it's never wasted. So in the beginning, there were a lot of long nights with my day job, tinkering, experimenting, testing things out. I enjoyed it. Learning skills because they simply seemed useful or interesting or potentially valuable later. I strongly believe this. Now, sometimes this investment paid off immediately, but sometimes it didn't. But again, knowledge is never wasted. Every skill stacks on top of the next one. You have to think of it as a building process when you're building your skill set. And every experience builds capability. And over time, those pieces, they start connecting. And that's when you can kind of see the path forward, the plan, the possibilities, as long as you're open to them. Another big part of this was my mindset around opportunities. And I say this to people all the time. You don't know if you don't try. If there is even a small chance something will work out, I will grab that opportunity and give it a go. And that's what you should do too if you want to build what you want to build for yourself. Opportunities don't arrive perfectly packaged. No one's going to come to your door and offer you a package with remote work and flexibility and using the skill set that you want to use. If it did, wow, you're lucky. Congratulations. But it often doesn't. So these opportunities, they'll start out small. There'll be a freelance task here, a short project over there, and that's where everyone backs out. Because it's often someone asking you if you can help with something you've never done before on your own, you've partially done before, you've done before but you've had support, perhaps from your colleagues in the office, and they hesitate. And they say, I'm not ready to take this opportunity. These are the moments when you need to tell yourself you don't know if you don't try. And you need to take the plunge to build what you want for yourself. Because growth doesn't happen when you feel ready. And that's what I've always done. That's my approach. Try it. Take the opportunity. Figure out the rest along the way. And sometimes it will go really smoothly. And sometimes there'll be a lot of learning along the way. And this learning is growth. And those small little experiences, those small gigs, they compound. One skill leads to another. A smaller project leads to another smaller project, which leads to a bigger project. And one opportunity opens the door to the next. And you never know which opportunity that is going to be. Now, one more thing I want to mention is the hours. And it doesn't get mentioned a lot. You might see a bit of the hustle culture being promoted online, but it's never that polished version that you see. Because when you're getting started building the flexibility that you want, or building the life that you want for yourself, or conquering new skills and industries, it's most likely happening outside your normal workday. At night, very late, on the weekends, taking up your free time, which is why it's important that you do things that you like. Because when you're building something new, no one's going to give you the time you need to build it. So those are the important things to remember, that no one's bringing you the opportunity to break those barriers, and no one's bringing you the time either. You have to make it for yourself. Now, there's another part of this story, well, my story, that feels relevant today. Remote work. Now, we talk about it a lot these days, well, mostly hybrid, I think. But when I started working this way, it was very different. This was before COVID. Working from home was not common. And for most industries, it was unheard of. The commute was simply accepted by everyone, which I found so strange. Hours traveling to work every day was normal, and no one ever questioned it. It was almost a rite of passage. If you want to work in these type of industries, this is what you have to do. But for me, it wasn't acceptable. It wasn't how I wanted to spend my time. And I kept thinking about the time, all those hours spent commuting, hours that could be spent learning something. Because let's be real, you can't do any real work on the train. Hours that could be spent building something or doing something meaningful. So instead of waiting for the perfect remote opportunity to appear, I focused on building the skills that would allow me in the future to work independently, to do freelance work, to work in digital systems, to work with online tools, the things that I'm really passionate about. And these are projects that can be done from anywhere. Now, it didn't happen overnight, as I've said, and it was not a smooth process. But the accumulation of skills is what created flexibility, along with never saying no to an opportunity. And eventually, that's how I built a way of working that actually fit my life, not the other way round. So for International Women's Day, I want to say something, especially to women who feel like the system doesn't quite fit their life. You might be juggling family, work, and other responsibilities that rarely align with traditional careers. And I know a lot of the women feel like the opportunities that they need are not there. But sometimes the answer isn't waiting for the opportunity to appear. Sometimes the answer is building the skills that allow you to create your own path, building the technical skills, the digital skills, the marketing skills, the business skills, whatever it is you need, skill by skill, opportunity by opportunity, experiment by experiment, your path will open. And I have to say, because it's very hard to actually find one, but I wished, and I also hope that there are now opportunities for women to be mentored by other women to succeed in their path. I'd love to hear from you about that. And I'd love to hear if you're looking for an opportunity to be mentored. So if today's episode resonates with you, share it with another woman who's trying to figure things out too. Someone learning late at night, someone trying something new, someone building something quietly behind the scenes, or share it with someone who wants to get started on that path and let them know that it is possible. When I look back now, I realize something. None of it started with certainty. It started with curiosity, with trying things before I felt ready, before I knew there was a possibility they would even work. You don't know if you don't try. It started with investing time in skills simply because I believed knowledge is useful. And those pieces come together, and they're still coming together. Because, the truth is, I had plans. I didn't know exactly how they would happen, but I kept learning and I kept trying. And eventually, the path appeared. And if you have plans, keep going. You don't need the answers, just keep building.